I'm not there yet. I'm learning. When a teenager is talking, don't rush. Don't jump in with solutions. Let them control the pace. Yeah. Let them be the ones in charge. Say something like, take your time. I'm listening. You know, go on. It doesn't mean you don't have 1,000 opinions to give out. You do, but you allow them to open up and, take their time talking. Because the moment you cut in, and your cutting is to judge, your cutting is to lecture or to preach, you will have lost a good moment there. So guess what you do? You let them go on. Seem like you have nothing else to do, or you have all the world, or whatever they are saying is something you've been waiting to hear. That will help you get your teenager to open up. Use open-ended questions is another thing. Instead of how was school, because we tend to do that as parents. You ask, how was school? And guess what answer that kind of question will give you? Fine. Was okay. Was normal. This will give you, those short answers. Try this. What was the most interesting part of your day? Oh my goodness, unless this teenager is bent on not saying something. But if they are the type that closes up shut, guess what? That would get them to talk. You'll ask them, what was the most interesting part of your day? And guess what? If there was anything interesting, they'll tell you. If there wasn't, they'll be like, well, there was not anything interesting. And then you'd be like, but why? See how you're getting the feel of it, and you're getting the vibes from them. They use words like vibe. Yeah. Or you can say, what challenges did you face today? Or what made you laugh today? So short things, but trust me, if there is anything that made him laugh, he will be like, oh, you won't believe it. The gate man was checking us at the gate point. And I don't know what these guys are on. They pretend like they're checking, but they're not checking for anything. Or if there is anything really that happened outside that, they'll be able to give you full details. This is how you get into their world, slowly but surely, and get them to talk. And it's nice when we all have that talking relationship with our teenagers. And another one, validate their feelings. This is something that all of us parents, now I'm here to just give a hack to anyone who is ready for hacking into their teenagers' lives, or if they are aunties, moms, dads, uncles, grandparents, and your teenager is not opening up. Validate them. Validate their feelings. Validation, you have to find out, guys, that it is power. It says, if you see, if you hear, you matter. They need to know, when they see you, you are on their side, not necessarily that you support everything they are up to, but when they see that ground has been laid where you see them, you hear them, and they matter, then you'll be surprised. Or they will tell you, I've always wanted to be an engineer, but along the way I've changed. I think I want to be a musician. That is when they will feel so comfortable and tell you exactly what they want. While for you, you're paying fees for an engineer. They want to be artists, and it feels like a loss, but they've let you into their world. And somehow you have a clue. That way you're not caught off guard when the person you're paying fees for gets into and breaks off and goes into something else. I think that would help us a lot. When I say, even if what you feel doesn't make sense to you, what they tell you, it doesn't make sense at all to you, just say, because there are times like even my teens come home from school and I'm tired and I'm not ready to hear all that went on with them, but I want them to talk. So you can just say words like, I understand. I understand why you would feel like that way. That must have been tough. Things like that. And they're like, oh, so mom understands, it's, things like, okay, like an example. They come to you and say, you won't believe it. I wore my shoe and no one gave any compliment. I know how that feels. So what did you do? Validate them. That must have been tough, wearing your new shoe and no one even sees it. You're not so much you're not digging what they are going through. But guess what? You're creating that ground where they can tell you just about anything. So if we learn and master some of these few hacks, we will be good. And trust me, our teens will open up. It means validation doesn't mean agreement, because we need to know that just because you're validating them doesn't mean you agree with them. So like she comes to you or he comes to you and says, I put on my new shoe, and no one said even a single thing. Like one of my daughters had her hair done and she went to school and she said, Mom, you won't believe no one noticed I did my new hair. Because I did the same hair, no one even, except one person. I'm like, I can understand. Can you imagine? That person must be observant. And then she goes on, yeah, she's actually observant because I put on new earrings and she noticed I had new earrings. You see, she's opening up and telling me other things, and I'm getting to know about her friends who ideally wouldn't have known had I not, pried into her world of being interested, even when I'm not that interested, even when you don't understand what is going on with them and why it's so important to them. Validation, guys, doesn't mean agreement. It actually means acknowledgement. In case you didn't know, it means you acknowledge they exist. It means they matter. That is what validation does. So always asking, how are you? How was school? What did you do? Who told you this? We just come up with questions. But if we want a teen to open up, sometimes you go fast, yeah? Share something small from your story or from your day. A story from your teenage years can also help. This helps them understand that our parents have been there before. They actually understand. They do know what is going on, what it is that we are going through. But if you don't share a story and just come off with a question, all the time questions, it's like they close off and they're like, why is he always prying or wanting to know more about my world? He wants to start judging, he wants to start lecturing. They come off on the guarding side. So if we come up with measures where we tell stories ourselves, either about our day or about our teenage years, it would help to get them to know that we are human as well, and what they are going through we understand. Not to make it about you. That is not why we do that, but to show the vulnerability in us. Sometimes teen talk when they see you are human too. We need to realize. But if we seem like we are up there, like I told you, at some point they even think our planets are different. A teenage planet and the adult planet are so different. That's what it seems to them. But guess what? When you become real and show some bit of vulnerability, then they get to realize, oh, so you are human too. And they open up. That is one thing we shouldn't forget, guys. Being human or sharing instead of asking. Like I like it when my husband tells my kids, me at school I used to play. I used to play. He says I went to Kitante. And then he would tell them that we had a system of packing food. So the mom would pack for him food and put it in a flask and give it to him to go to school. And each time he would come home, the flask is broken, the flask is lost. And the dad got annoyed one day, came to school, and he told them exactly. We actually went to the school, I think this year, and he showed one of my daughters exactly where he would throw the bag after school has ended and just get on playing. And he would play. And forgetting that when he throws the bag, because it's time to go home, the flask is breaking. Then he showed her one time and said, this is where I last threw my flask. My dad got annoyed and beat me, whipped me seriously. And from that day, they started getting his flask from him and giving it to the older sister to keep for him. And then after he has finished eating, they give it back to the older sister so that it can be safe after they had tried everything. Now, him being that real with them made them feel like, okay, we can relate with daddy. So because I used to wonder why my boy plays Bananke. I don't know about you guys, but my boy plays and plays. And when he gets to hear that from his dad, that his younger years, he also played, he gets to realize these people are also humans. And in case he has any issues, if the father continues to tell stories about his teenage years, he gets to understand. Now, the son I'm talking about is not in high school anymore and he's not yet a teenager. But if the dad keeps that up, guess what it does to him? It gets him to feel or get to that place of knowing, okay, these guys are also human. They are not angels. They are not divine beings that came and dropped us here, and now we have to face and deal with things. They get to realize we are real as parents. So even when we are criticizing our children, when we are judging them, when we are trying to get them on the straight and narrow, we also need to remember that we've been there before. I know I may have performed well in school, but they are not me. I may not have had struggles in school studying with my academics, but they are having struggles. So I need to be understanding, because they are not me. They are independent, or they are individuals of themselves. They are not me. Even when they came from me, I need to remember that. And if I didn't perform well, if I had struggles in school, I cannot sit back and start thinking I gave birth to the geniuses who are going to go to the moon. Well, those miracles do happen, but it's not what I should be fishing for. I use the word fishing because it is unrealistic. You never led your class anytime through your school life. And on your boys' case, your girls' case, you have to be among them. Why am I wasting my money? And you're always on their case. You need to be real, more realistic. That if you didn't do so well at school, cut them some slack. Be human. Being vulnerable will help us get our teenagers to open up, and we will have a good relationship at the end of the day. Sometimes teens talk when they see you are human too. We need to remember that, because once we forget it, we think the more angelic or divine we appear, the better it is for them to relate with us. No, it doesn't. Actually, it closes doors when we do not have experiences that we share with our teenagers. Now, the other thing is be consistent. I said be consistent. Opening up takes trust. Yeah. And trust takes time. Those two rhyme like that. Opening up takes time, and trust takes time as well. So if I'm to open up to you, I mean, not everyone opens up to anyone, any stranger, and you start talking about yourself. If you do that with a stranger, something is actually categorized of you as something wrong, because you cannot just start blabbering about your life, about your health, about your family to a perfect stranger unless something is wrong. It takes time. You need to be seeing this person over time. Then before you know it, like someone was telling me that I've worked with this gentleman for this many years, but he had never opened up and talked about his family to me. But all of a sudden he started talking, telling me this and the other about his family. And then you realize it's because they had worked together, and he had assessed and seen that he can connect, and actually he provided a safe space for him to open up. So trust takes time, and opening up takes trust. So once we realize that, we give it time. I said be consistent. If you're going to be in your child's life and your teenager's life, and you cannot be understanding today and the next day you're on top of the roof, you cannot take, you cannot be, listening and all these things that we have talked about today, and the next day you are a different person, lashing out at anything that they say, interrupting, interrogating. You need to be consistent so that trust can be built, because because opening up takes time. So you need to also know that trust also takes time. So you be consistent in what you're doing. If you're going to be understanding through and through, not some days or sometimes. Yeah. A teen won't talk to you today if you only show interest once in a while. We need to remember that. Once in a while show up won't work out for you. Consistency builds safety. If you do it constantly, trying to get to understand them, trying not to interrogate them, not interrupting them, not to judge them, you do it consistently, guess what? They will open up. And safety builds communication. We need to know that. If I feel I'm safe with you. Have you seen drunkards before? I'm sorry, guys, those of you who enjoy alcohol, I don't want to insult, but have you seen people who go in bars? I've watched movies, And people once drunk, oh my goodness, they go on and talk and talk and talk and talk. Why? Because that safe ground has been, that safe space has been created where it seems like no one is judging. Everyone is understanding at the bar. They understand why you're drinking. They understand why you want to drown your sorrows. So it is a safe space. And so you open up and say everything. Those people who are bar tenants have heard stories of people and they know people's lives from beginning to where they are right now. Why? Because when people are in that state, they are vulnerable and they speak. And once they drink alcohol, that space is enlarged and they just go on and on and on. So remember, safety builds communication. We need to be consistent. And